art in your career. My name is Andy Cung. I'm a writer-director.
My name is Mike Uwandi. I'm an art director, concept artist.
My name is Drew Hartel. I'm a production designer, art director.
Cool. So one of the reasons why we wanted to have this talk was even though we do art, we also have other endeavors, and we don't want it to stop at just being artists, right? We're all pushing to do more with our career. So we thought that might be a great way to talk about how a lot of things that we do is all about problem solving at the end of the day, right? Whether it's design or art, but also your career. So what things translate over to that? So for me, I'll start off. So I used to be an engineer. I did that for 7 years, and I kind of talked about this yesterday in my talk. But I've been and then now, I did that for 7 years. Then I transitioned to storyboarding on Powerpuff Girls, and I went to Netflix, did that for a few years, and then did live action. And eventually I kind of went independent. Reason being was that I didn't, this is gonna be a very honest conversation.
Yeah, I was like, let's be raw as hell. Like, let's, they could take it.
For me, it's like this, for TV schedule, we work really hard in animation. The hours are really hard. And this is something I got in corporate too. I used to do like crazy hours as an engineer. And that's actually one of the reasons why I left engineering. I was like, if I'm working this hard, I should reap the rewards of this. Why should the company benefit this, you know, aside from just a salary and 2 weeks vacation? So that was actually one of the reasons why I wanted to leave engineering. Because I saw a lot of friends, there was different revenue streams that you can make. Because for me, at the end of the day, I just want to be financially independent and do my own thing. So with that, I was like, let's pursue art. And how I went about that was like, if I started drawing at 24. So I was like, well, if I'm gonna go to school again, I have to treat art school like a 4-year college. And take what I learned from engineering, which was like, you do 2 years of undergrad, you learn your foundations, your third year is like your upper division, fourth year is your senior thesis. So that's how I approached going to art school while juggling a full-time job. And taking things I learned from that was that in university, you're cramming for 10 weeks. So when it comes time for quarters and or midterms and finals, you're just cramming, you take the test, and you forget about it. And that doesn't retain. And when you start working, you have to have an understanding of that. So going to art school, I was like, I'm gonna take one class at a time and just drill and get the reps in and really build that strong foundation in. So that when you start adding those extra layers, that becomes more stronger and stronger. And then, once I did that, I got to work in animation, and then same thing, that I'm very grateful for animation. The pay is great. Like, I'll be very transparent about the numbers. I'm sure it's a bit higher now, but Revisions was $65,000 salary starting off. And as an engineer, I was making, I think, almost 100K. But it was totally worth it for me to be able to get paid to do what I love to do, which is draw. And then with storyboarding, because it's union, your rates actually jump up pretty fast. You basically revisionists, jump up to boards. And with those numbers, you can look it up online, but you're basically hitting 6 figures right off the bat. So within 2 or 3 years, you'll hit, like, if you excel and you put in the work and you build your relationships, you will hit 6 figures. But then the same thing happens again. You plateau, you hit a ceiling. So how do you go beyond that, right? And especially like living in LA, if you want to buy a house, it's very difficult, you know? And so for me, it's like, how do I...
Sorry, just think about, it's like a joke buying a house in LA. It's like, you can buy a castle anywhere else. And yeah, you could probably...
That's true, you can buy like a castle in Ireland for like $300,000.
Literally, yeah.
There were some tears in my laugh there.
Yeah. Pour them in this cup.
I mean, I had another friend of mine who works in live action. He said, and live action pays more than animation. He's like, same thing.
Hey, sorry. He was trying to be sneaky rolling in here, but
yeah.
Hey everyone.
You'll be able to piece up what I'm talking about. But basically, standing at live action, the weekly rates are a lot higher, but he said to him, you'll hit a ceiling again. And he's like, I worked in all these biggest movies, but we don't get any back end or anything like that. It's just the way the business works. And so his advice was, you have to create IPs. You have to learn how to write and tell your own stories, and that's what I did. And then again, taking those problem-solving skills of building that practical bridge, I did again while I was at Netflix. So I was 30 at the time. I was like, okay, by the time I'm 35, I want to be a decent writer. So what steps do I take? So I started doing the same thing. Instead of going to art school, I went to writing school and improv school. So I spent 3 years learning screenwriting. And then after that, I implemented that and wrote my own pilot, and I just finished boarding, I think, the first act of the pilot. And then now the next step is like, okay, let's go shop that around and see what we can do with that, right? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I'm not going to hold you guys. Essentially, me and his story is pretty similar. I started getting back into art when I was around 24. Prior to that, I've been drawing my whole life. Stopped doing it because it wasn't cool. It's like really the true reason. And eventually, I had some great influencers who told me, hey, get your ass back into the game and start trying to draw. I was following my African dad and doing medical school. And I enjoyed it, but no, I didn't enjoy that shit. It was so I was like, all right, you know what? Like after getting some of these influences and stuff like that, I started driving back into art and I was really enjoying it. But prior to that, I look at everything as the same thing. So I used to box for a long time. And also I kind of compete in other sports as well. And once you get good at one thing, you kind of get good at everything if you really understand how to get good at those things. And so I remember being like, okay, I'm a little bit older, but I've had enough experience in life as a whole. I know there's a lot more life experience that I need, but I would kick it with like older people and I would hear the same things. Oh, you know, by the time you're 30, man, you're going to be tired. Like, you ain't going to do nothing. So, like, I was like taking their word and being like, everything that they were saying was gospel because I don't know that road yet, right? And so I kind of map my stuff out like a chessboard. And something that I know really well is video games. And I treated life as an RPG, which me and him joke about this shit all the time, but it's no joke. It's serious. So, so I remember just kind of like trying to understand the game and saying, all right, well, I want to get from point A to point B. One of the things that I don't want to do is I don't want to be killing myself working way too hard when I'm like mid-40s, 50. I want to kind of be in a position where I'm low-key coasting, just to keep it real. But I also know that there's this thing called young energy, right? And in your 20s, you got it. In your 30s, you don't. And so I was trying to really take advantage of that. And fortunately, I met a friend who also kind of believed in the same damn thing. And so we ended up pushing each other like crazy. And the thing was to get to a point as fast as possible and as efficient as possible to then be able to do what we want to do, which we kind of are. Yeah. But then there's going to be a new thing, I'm sure, because this is our problem. We enjoy pain a little bit too much, and so we'll just make a new problem to solve, and we're going to hurt ourselves regardless. But
Mike, you don't want to be an NPC. I think that's what he's trying to say.
That's what I'm saying. Damn, you're good. So one of the big things that we know is that when it comes to certain companies, they thrive. They're a machine, and they thrive with you being a cog. That's where they thrive. If you are an individual, that's kind of a problem. So understanding that they're a machine, but this as a whole thing is a game, right? And understanding how to play that game is where you fit. So understanding also that these companies generally, they're like a business. They're gonna give you the least possible thing to keep you there, to make you happy, quote unquote. Eventually, you'll get used to bad treatment, and you'll just stay there because you'll kind of create these fears in your head. And especially as artists, we don't talk, period, but we also don't talk to each other enough. And so no one's getting information on like, hey, what's this rate? Or hey, is this treatment wrong? Like, these companies are kind of being able to control you. And eventually what happens, I actually heard Tupac say this, and I'm gonna try and censor it, but he said, you know, he was like, what, 20-something when he died? But he said, let me censor this, I'm trying my best. You don't see anyone over 30 raising the ruckus, essentially. For some reason, that struck me. And I was like, he's right. Usually when people get to a certain age, they just kind of chill out and accept what is what. So understanding that, make a lot of mistakes as fast as possible, which is like my #1 rule, and it's still my rule, because you learn through mistakes. You don't learn through just being perfect all the time. But also making sure that I map out my road, and I actually give myself deadlines in my head. And I don't really tell nobody, except this guy right here, who's also right behind you, who's winking his eyes. He's really pretty, Andrew. I remember telling him one year that he was like, so what's the plan for next year? And it was around like November or something. And I was like, I was working in mobile games. And that was my first job. I was like, next year, I want to work on 5 big titles, and then the next year, I want to work for Marvel. And this sounds ridiculous. It's like, how the fuck are you going to go from mobile games to like working at Marvel? And I understood in my head the chessboard was you work on enough projects, that's like moving a step up, right? And these projects could range from video games to animation, whatever, but you can work on certain projects that move you up, you can work on certain projects that keep you still, and you can work on certain projects that move you back. I was choosing to take 5 big projects specifically, even if it was gonna kill me, because I wanted to get to a certain point when I said I was gonna get to that point. So I worked on 5 big projects. It just so happened, I don't know why, but I got 5 big projects that year. And then I took a break. And I was like, someday I'll work at Marvel. I think it's gonna come up next because I said it, right? Just so happens, my hero right here happened to see my work, and he gave me a chance when that time hit, and it was actually the very next year, so it fit within that timeline. But I understood that I had to work hard to get to a certain point and to get there as soon as possible. So sometime I would double up on jobs. Just to get that goal accomplished, because sometimes when it comes to art, you get these opportunities, but then you want them all. But there has to be a balance between taking all the opportunities, but making sure that your quality is at a certain standard. And so that's essentially what I was doing, is making sure that I wasn't doing too much of the same thing. No project is the same. If I'm doing 2 projects, they have to be different, because if they're the same, I'm gonna get bored as hell, and then my skill level is gonna kinda start to suffer. Eventually, from Marvel, I was like, okay, the next thing I wanted to do was start a company. Not just for myself, actually. In fact, it's not for myself, because my life would be way easier if I didn't start the company. But it was also recognizing the troubles that I had getting into the industry, people not seeing my potential, and just kind of like also hiring people who look exactly like them, or come from the same background. None of that shit should matter when it comes to getting a job. But unfortunately, in our industry that is more so networking than anything else, and I'm sure you guys have seen it yourself. You apply for a job a million times.
Would you say, Mike, sometimes it's because you think you're from a certain part of the way you live your life and you think you can't make it?
That's also a thing.
Yeah, because going from what Mike said earlier, when you decide you wanted these 5 projects to happen, you're starting to like reset your mind to, oh, I can accomplish this. Like I used to always say, I want to be a millionaire. A millionaire. How come I can't say I want to be a billionaire? Why just millionaire? Millionaire, you buy 2 houses, you're a millionaire, because it goes over the price it's supposed to be. And you don't realize you already are, because that's not what I really thought a millionaire was. No, I wanted to be a billionaire. Again, it's not about the money, it's just about mindset. Changing your mindset to where you're go higher than you think you can.
Exactly.
Because if you don't get there, at least you're down here, halfway to a billion, something like that.
Exactly. No, you're 100% right about that.
Yeah. So I think the moment you said, boom, you want to go there, and then and it just pushes you to. First, you feel embarrassed. Why am I thinking this? I come from a poor background, or wherever. I'm not good. I'm not this or that. But then, that is the wall you have to break. And then when you say it more often, just don't say it to people that don't want to support you. Like I'd say to these guys, because it's easier to say, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. But just recently, I went from millionaire to billionaire. I want to be a billionaire. That's it.
You're already a millionaire.
Yeah. In a way, that's another thing I was going to talk to these guys about. But go ahead.
Sorry. But everything he said is right. It's like,
yeah.
It's important to set a cap that some people may deem unreasonable.
Yeah, most people will deem unreasonable.
They will, but that's also because what they are not does not create what you are. So
they're NPCs.
They're NPCs. Let them be NPCs.
Non-player character for people that
non-playable characters, exactly.
I mean, just to add on to what Anthony was saying, like I struggled with confidence growing up a lot, and it wasn't until putting in the work you start building. Because like growing up, my parents had a hand in everything, with engineering they helped me get that job with school. But once I did art, that was all me. So that helped me build up my confidence as a person. And then you start being around people. I feel like in art, it's a community that really understands each other and they uplift each other because they know how hard it is to break into art. And I think that is something that's really special about this community. But my Rad was telling me, gave me this one gem. He's like, I think the hardest thing you have to do is break through to art from engineering. Everything else would be easy for you. Now it's how badly do you want it? And then by hanging around that type of people, you start putting that in your head. And you're like, wow, if he sees it, maybe I can do it too. And then after working live action, same thing. You work with these like Oscar-winning directors. Like they're like, yeah, man, you should be a director. And I was like, fuck. Yeah, I should be one.
Yeah, and sometimes.
And then it's like, yeah.
Talking about that, actually, sometimes people see your potential more than you see your potential, and you kind of have to accept it to actually get that, you know, because a lot of times we do limit ourselves most of the time until someone says like, hey, you should be doing this. And that's basically what happened to you. That's what he did to me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you want to be at Marvel? But first thing that caught my attention was how nice this guy is, Mike.
I'm really mean, people.
Yeah. Well, he's firm with his art. That's another quality that was good because I was like, he wants to get better. He's a nice guy. His art was really good, but maybe it wasn't Marvel quality yet. But because I look at people and see, do I want to work with this person for the rest of my time here at Marvel? And that's the first thing I look at because if I could, if you're collaborative, if you're not like, say excuses after excuses, here's one quality that Mike did when I was trying to get him in at Marvel. The other people that was trying to get in, I'm not gonna say any names, but when I asked, hey, I'm trying to curate his portfolio so it fits the right theme that's needed, because you don't just give me all your portfolio and then just show everything. I don't do that. I have to take out the ones I don't think they'll like, even though it's good, but I don't think they would like it. So I take it out. And the moment I called him, hey, I think you should take this out, put this in. It's like, oh, that's just a painting of this. No, but it shows your color sense. Then just put that in, put it in. He did it within the hour. He didn't ask questions. He didn't know. I didn't even say I need it. That is one of the tests, really. Most other, hey, you guys change this whole thing, and it takes a week to do it.
Man.
It's too late now. You know, and there have been some people that missed the boat because of that.
That's some real shit.
And that day, I think I sealed the deal.
You did. He's a hero, guys.
But it is hard. It is hard trying to get people in there. So
I want to jump to Drew because we're taking up all of his time.
Oh, I mean, I'm literally I'm sitting here like a fan, just listening, and like everybody else here, taking it all in. But no, I mean, for me, all this stuff, it's what all of us here either are beginning to go through or have gone through, is that support system when you decide you want to become an artist. Like for me, going through high school, my parents were very clear, you're not a college kid, you need to go be a carpenter, pick up a trade, be an electrician, get into construction. That's what you're supposed to do, because I barely made it through high school. Yeah. And so, that was my mindset, and I was like, screw this, I'm gonna do music. I did music, bunch of stuff happened in my life. Fell in love, got married, got into the produce industry. And so my job was basically to go to grocery stores all over LA, San Diego, and make sure that packaged salads were in the right place. And I'd be like, check. And if they weren't, I'd have to go talk to the produce manager and be like, hey man, can we get like the Caesar, can we get 2 rows of Caesar over here? And he'd be like, I don't want to do that. We don't sell Caesar at this store. And I'm like, I don't like my life right now. My wife found out she was pregnant. That was, my daughter's gonna be turning 10, so that was like 11 years ago. And as soon as she found out she was pregnant, I was really excited, and I was like, oh, great, yeah, and this is gonna be so great. And then we were watching the Pixar story, I think it was, the documentary, and I just started crying like a baby. And she'd never seen me cry, and she had no idea I liked art or animation at all. So I was like, I always wanted to do this, but like nobody really supported me in high school. Nobody really brought that out in me or told me I could. So she is a big reason why I'm here today, because she was like, don't quit your day job, but you can go to community college at night and learn. So I did that. Long story short, when my daughter was born, she had some health issues. So my job didn't have health insurance at the time. It was before Obamacare, all that stuff. So a whole bunch of different things happened to where basically we had to move in with her parents. I lost my job, and I was struggling big time and very, very stressed. Couldn't take my daughter to see a doctor at the time. So I had a friend who, an old buddy of mine, like stoner friend. Sorry, probably shouldn't say that.
Nope, you should definitely say that. You should definitely say that.
So he was like, hey man, I think like, he's like, I think Art Center, like I go there to study fine art, and I think they have like some animation thing, and like you can get health insurance for you and your family. And I was like, okay, here's the strategy. I'm gonna make a portfolio and I'm gonna get into the school for at least one semester so we could take her to all the doctors we need to take her to. So as soon as we did that, I like had one painting class with Gary Meyer, rest in peace, love Gary Meyer. Yeah. And I fell in love with painting. And it was like, and then every semester I was begging my wife, can I just do one more? I know it's a lot of debt, but we'll pay it back. And we are paying it back with interest.
Ouch.
But when I met this guy, that was a big support system for me. Having somebody else who was like working just as hard. I mean, my daughter was the reason why I wanted to do it. I wanted to be that example for her because everybody in my family always talked about doing something, but I wanted to do it. And not have to say it, but to do it by example. And so when I met him, we were like, all right, now I got like a gym partner. Now like we can like push each other and go harder and go harder. And, did a lot of really crappy jobs. We did like jobs that paid $10 painting. We did jobs that paid like pretty much nothing. Did stuff all over different parts of the industry. And then all of a sudden I got a break at Pixar. And I literally thought, I was on the phone with this guy when I got the email, and I was like, Mike, what the hell is this email, man? I know this is you. And he's like, nah, that's not me. And I was like,
this really happened.
And so from there, it was just things kept happening because the work ethic, because I kept working hard, and he kept pushing me hard, and got to do Disney and Leica and Sony and do Spider-Verse and Coco and all these films, and just, leading up to where I think what we're kind of talking about now, which is that part of you that's like, I think I want more. And it's not that I want more because, oh man, I'm selfish or, I want to be a billionaire, all these different, it's not just like, and because I have that same aspiration too of like, Mike and I are starting that too, like the same thing Anthony's talking about of like, I want to be a billionaire. I want to go for that extra level. And it's not to do it like, Anthony was trying to say this, now I'm trying to say it as hard. It's like, it's not doing it for the sake of doing it. Yeah. It's doing it because with that comes the ability to do what you want to do creatively more easily, And
to take care of your family too. I think.
Take care of your family and to be able to like really direct your own life and not feel like, I have to take this job or I got to take this job. And every time that I've moved up from, I think the only job I can get is packaged salads to where I'm at now, has taken that step of me saying, I'm going to imagine more for my life, even if it seems silly or ridiculous, and people will laugh at you or not support it or say, okay, yeah, they'll kind of laugh it off. But if you have a friend like Mike or any of these guys sitting up here, then all of a sudden it's taken seriously and you start to take steps. And it's amazing how quickly things progress when you have a friend that supports you like that.
And your friends will judge you if you don't actually do what you said.
I remember I acted on it and you're like, oh, you actually got it done.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that thing,
This is really an emotional kind of panel here. Just
we just all start crying.
No, really. Just listening to him, it's getting me. I was like, hey, let's direct that life.
When we met together, the same thing. You had just wanted to pitch, so you reached out to me. We had lunch at Netflix.
Yeah, because I liked his story a lot too. Because it's like I'm trying to get these stories that kind of inspire you, and it's almost like if I was a director, whose life would I want to direct? His story is really good. Your story, everyone almost up here, I feel, are the ones that I get along with. That seems like we all have the same goal, and just what Drew's saying, the billionaire idea is to break through that barrier, but if you really think about the real goal is to have time for yourself to be creative. But this is one thing I went through, almost like my whole goal was so I could spend all my time with my family. That's why I'm like emotional when he's saying that. And it's taking too long,
Can we also talk about, for all of you guys, because I know all of y'all real life stories, what happened when you guys actually invested in yourselves? It's kind of a pattern that I've seen with all of them, where there's a moment where they're working for these companies, and it's like high level companies, and you would think that most people would be like, this is cool, like I'm really happy with this. But after that, they literally like pause and start investing in themselves, and then you see a huge level up. And it's happened, I've known them for quite a few years now. It's happened time and time again where there's always this like, oh wait, let me not get lost in the sauce and let me invest in myself, and then a crazy breakthrough happens. I know y'all can't talk about what those breakthroughs are, but talk about the pattern.
I can share on that one. So I mentioned yesterday in my talk. So when I was at engineering, I had hit this point where I was like, I am not happy here. If I continue on this path, I know something bad will happen. So I was like, I have to take actions to get out of this. When I had to finish Netflix, I had felt a very familiar feeling. I was like, I know this feeling. What is it? I was like, oh, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
If I continue down this path, I will be directed. I'm going to climb up the ladder for them. And I don't want that. Again, if I'm worked that hard, I want to reap the rewards of that. So I was like, well, I'm going to quit Netflix. I'm going to take a chance on myself. And it paid off. And I had an opportunity. So I wasn't making money. I was like, shit, I need to make money. So I did a workshop. And that workshop sold 500 spots. And I was about to shit my pants. I was like, I have to win over 500 people now. Because if I don't, I just lost the trust of 500. So I spent 1 month, actually I spent a year prepping for that workshop because I was teaching for a year. And I used that material and I kind of repackaged it in a month and won over everyone in that workshop. And that's what started my teaching career and turning that into a business.
I still remember that time. I was talking to this guy. I was like, hey, remember we were thinking, oh, how would you maintain something so that, and then teaching, and he's like, I don't want to teach. At first, yeah, but that's gonna help you with. I still remember how confident his voice was. No, I don't want to do something like that. Boom, and next thing you know, he's one of the best teachers.
Right, literally one of the best teachers in his craft, like bar none. And actually, Anthony too. I mean, this dude, for one, he has quite the storied career. He was the first concept artist that I've ever seen. And I never knew, I mean, until I met him, I was like, what? You're Anthony Francisco? Like, he worked on this game called Project Offset. It was like a dope-ass game that like built like a whole world. And it was just two artists, him and another artist. And then from there, he went to like do all these incredible things, and then working at Marvel, getting all the dope characters, and then did something else that was hella dope.
The ones that I get lucky with.
He doesn't get lucky. He's fucking amazing.
Thank you so much.
And then from Marvel, you did what?
Your next steps after Marvel.
Oh.
Because you were there for what, 10 years?
9 years. 8 years and 8 months, actually, is exact. Which is kind of funny. I am really jotting it down.
He's like, I'm out of this motherfucker.
Yeah. It was really interesting because how do I start it? Because right now I'm no longer at Marvel. I just left recently, 8 months ago, because when I was talking to you guys, the moment I decided that I want to be a creator, I wanted to do my own production company. Sorry. Let me start off the right way. First, I wanted more control over my work, right? I don't want anybody taking credit for it. So maybe I could be a costume designer. Oh, costume designers still have to answer to certain people, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe I could be a director. And then, as a director, maybe I could help other concept artists make sure they get credit for their work, right? Because there's some stuff going on that's kind of hard to. It's nobody's fault, but you just have to be loud about your accomplishments, because sometimes some people take credit for that, and not like you're bragging. You're just like, I did this, so that you could get paid more later, you know? So I didn't know that was setting up for something better later on for me. The moment I started talking about it more, costume concept illustrators started talking about their stuff more also, and we all started supporting each other. Hey, you should be able to say this. You're not just a sketch artist, you know. So these were the sparks that started. No, how can I help all of us somehow, you know? Anyway, and then director, and then maybe a producer. Maybe I could be a producer at Marvel. Maybe I could, and it's all maybes. But then you say to certain people, and who would want to make you a producer at Marvel? Who would want? Why? You're like a triple threat. You could do story, you could do art, and then you could manage, like, they won't want you to be, it sounded like it's plausible. Yeah, that sounds like it makes sense. Does it really? So you talk to other people and you're like, maybe it makes sense, but the other side makes sense too. I could possibly be. So I started talking to the producers. Hey, can I be a producer? Of course you can. What? I can. So it's like you have to say it. Whether they mean it or not, it doesn't matter for me to second guess them. Oh, they're producers. They're good at talking. Oh, they're agents. They're good at talking. Why make a different reason for what they're saying? If they say you're a superstar, I'm a superstar. You know, or no, he's just trying to get into it with my money. Oh, he wants to make. You have all these reasons, which it did go through my head, right? All these reasons. But the moment I decided on making a bigger idea, and lucky enough, you start meeting the right people. It could be just a storyboard artist that inspires you, that wants to be a director. So we both we had breakfast that one time, and then started showing all the stuff I've been working on, like the stuff I already had before I even got to Marvel. So one main point in one of the parties, Marvel parties, I got to. I already met Ryan Coogler, but this time I got to talk to him like more. And he was telling me how he loved the way I did the Dora Milaje design, and how he liked that I put some Filipino influence in it. He even remembers that. We got to talking more, and it turns out his wife is part Filipino. And then she knew about the aswangs and the tikbalangs and all that stuff, Filipino folklore. So this reminded me of my short film I wanted to do. And then it just kind of started going, and I was saying that, and Ryan Coogler said, don't forget your dream, man. He said, don't forget your dream. And then you should do that. You should direct it. You should whatever. And I think that was the moment everything just opened up. A director is telling me this. And he was introducing me to everyone else there who already know who I am. But he's so nice. It's like, this is the guy who designed Baby Ruth. This is the guy he's actually the one saying it. So if you meet the right people, they help you. You know, maybe he sensed something. I don't know.
That's kind of what we talked about earlier too.
Yeah.
Is like, I said this yesterday, so excuse me, but generally the people you meet are just reflections of you. And so when you are meeting shitty people over and over again, you're shitty. So when you're a good person, you're going to meet people over and over again.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. Voldemort.
But just add on to, there's one quote I remember back in college where like someone saying that you can tell how much someone makes by the 6 people they hang around with. But it's not just the money, but it's like their values. Because those are the things that you pick up from the people around you.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's really important to have supportive. For me, I'm like, no fucking pessimism, negative bullshit around me.
Yeah.
I don't want that around me because it doesn't benefit anyone. You know.
I think the first steps, I don't know who I was talking to, but I know it's one of you guys when we were talking about it. First step is to change your environment, right? Change your environment. That's the first step. Because the environment, this is design, right? The environment informs your character design.
That's bars. Bars. Damn.
Yeah.
Put that in a song.
That's really true. I mean, that's a huge one, is like getting out of your comfort zone, being in a different place, a different environment where there's, fertile availability to be able to grow and expand and change as a human being. And I'll also say too, like a lot of times you'll hear these talks where, it's like this person helped me, this person helped me, this person pushed me, this person inspired me. Just like any athlete out there, all those things are true. However, at the end of the day, as much as maybe Mike might say, oh, Drew really pushed me in school and did this and the other, like he did the work. I didn't do the work, he had to do it. There's no shortcut there. And he already wanted to do the work. He almost just needed somebody to push him. But at the end of the day, I never, put a gun to his head and was like, draw,
Actually,
draw.
you fucking did. What are you talking about?
Wasn't loaded. I'm just kidding.
It wasn't loaded.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you still have to put in the work, the hours, but like having those people to help encourage you and push you are great. But also, Mike and I would joke about it, but we're also half serious, where we'd tell each other, Mike would be like, Drew, if you ever stop working as hard as you're working, I'm gonna keep going. And you're gonna be behind, and it's like, and I would say the same thing to him, but it was like, we had to keep leveling up the bar. If it was just me leveling up the bar, or just Mike, or just Anthony or Andy or whoever, like, you need to be doing it for each other, to be inspiring each other. You don't want to be, letting your team down or letting your friends down. You want to be also pushing yourself.
And a simple metaphorical way of thinking about this is like whenever you think about nature, right? You put a fish in a tank, you see how fast that grows, or how large he's able to grow. A small tank, see how large he's able to grow. Put him in the ocean, see how large he's able to grow. You put a tree and leave it in fertile ground, keeping it away from a bunch of other trees. See how wide that thing will grow. And if you put it next to a bunch of trees and it's, being compact, to see how small that'll grow. So it's the same thing. Literally everything is the same thing. So you look at nature, you do other things, pay attention to life in general, and then reapply it to yourself. The rules are the same. And it's the same thing with design. It's the same thing with humanity. If you look at an environment design and you see like, oh, that's cool, but something feels empty. It's the same thing with fucking character design. Environments utilize character. Right? Props have character. People have character. So when it comes to that, when they're talking about changing your environment, you need to be within a place that allows you to grow, ultimately. And also people who you can look up to. If you don't aspire to be like any of your friends, then you probably have the wrong friends.
So, going off of what he said, so the steps after changing your environment, I realized that I needed to meet and talk to executives. I can't talk to, I've been an artist for a long time, but I need to know what these executives want, what they need, and then I start talking. I mean, I already know them, but how come I'm not like making one of them my mentors or something, So we all get along with them already, and I just started asking every one of them how they started, were they scared, and some of them would just say, I still don't know what I'm doing. So you can do it too, but some of them, actually, all of them were very supportive, but they did say that you might have to take a pay cut if you're going to go down to, let's say, production manager. And I said, oh, and then I could easily, when you're a concept artist, you just create stuff in your head and be imaginative, right? Be creative. Oh, okay, I have to pay cut. What? Is there a hybrid one where I could keep my pay and also so I'm just asking, I'm just trying to solve the problem they're trying to give me, which is what concept artists do, right? Mm-hmm. So, but if I couldn't, so I talked to the producer eventually, Trin Tran, she was very inspiring to me, and she said, you could always leave, get better. Oh, sorry, it's not in order. Sorry. What it was is, I've been doing my pitches. I pitched my stuff to different studios, and then there was chances that I could be getting this made. So I just went on my own, just pitched, just bigger ideas. I want to be this, that, and then I had this chance to leave, and I was afraid of leaving because it's Marvel, because maybe I might not come back, maybe this is bad, blah, 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 all the other insecurities I may be feeling. But then when she said, you could get your experience out there and then come back, and then that made me even feel more confident. And when the time came that my IP got bought, but the way, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Within a year and a half, I have this IP called Creature Craft. I actually have 16 IPs, but 3 of them were the ones I was pushing out. And I got a deal with Dolphin Entertainment, and I didn't know who they were. But my manager was saying, you better be really happy. I got you this deal. Also, I apologize. Everything's out of order, because when I said, open your mind to people coming in, my manager just came in out of nowhere. It's like, wow, I didn't know my wife's cousin knows a manager who started House of Blues. And I was like, what? And he didn't even tell me he started. He didn't tell me his accomplishments, nothing. He said, just call this guy. I know a guy who knows a guy. He might be able to help you with. And the conversation was, do you get royalties from doing Baby Groot? Right? And they go, no. Am I supposed to? Like stuff like that. Am I supposed to get that? So the first thing when we were telling you guys, create an idea, get your royalties from your licensing your IPs, and I didn't even think about that stuff until all this started coming out, and you won't know that if you don't talk to executives, and I realized how much potential all these artists have, all the creativity you guys have, and we're all kind of being controlled by a system. Sorry to get really
No,
kind of
it's true.
this.
It's depressing, but true.
Yeah, so it's like kind of how do we get out and then have a leadership that are also artists, that are not just lawyers or, financial people that become your producers, or not like that's bad for them. I'm not saying you take away from someone else. It's just saying how can we also be part of that?
There's a great quote I heard, and then he's like, we need capitalism, obviously, for things to work out.
Yeah.
And have stuff. But he's like, what it should be is 51% humanity, 49% capitalism. So when it comes to that border, it's like humanity always wins first. And I was like, oh, that's actually a good thing to keep in mind.
It should.
Is it thoughtful capitalism or something like that? I think thoughtful capitalism, or something like that. I forgot the new breed of capitalists coming out. It's for the people.
Yeah. Something else also is talking about knowing when to leave. Sometimes you can be this can be relationships,
That's
work,
fair.
whatever. Like I said, everything is about everything. But knowing when to leave, and literally all of us actually have had moments where you leave something that most people will be like, you're insane to leave this place, and then
That's what everyone was telling me,
Every
including
single
my
time.
parents. Like, what are you doing? What, you want to be a YouTuber? No, I don't know yet, but that's.
Yeah, exactly. But you can kind of
creative,
feel
isn't
it.
it?
You can feel it when you pay attention, right? Like,
Yeah.
I actually had like a funny situation where, because you can also realize how much trauma impacts your decisions. There was a time when I was working for a while. It was when I first got into the industry, and I was working multiple jobs. And I was like, yeah, I'm cruising. This is going good. And then all of a sudden, I stopped getting jobs, and I was traumatized. I was like, I wasn't working for like 3-4 months. I was fucked up, like for real. And eventually, I started working again, but I was always scared to leave my job because I was like, I seen what just happened, this last time. I don't want to leave because that's going to happen again. But there was a time when I was working in games, and a friend, actually, Philip Boutte, was like, and me and him weren't friends at the time, but he was like, he just has to leave his job. And in my head, I'm like, man, are you crazy? Did you not just see what just happened to me? Like, I ain't leaving nothing. And I was like, nah, I'm not leaving my job. Maybe I'll like kind of tiptoe here, dip my toe in the water, essentially. But after a while, I just made a bold decision to leave. And literally the day I put in my 2 weeks, I got like 4 jobs in live action. And I was like, this is crazy. So it's one of those things where, I say it a lot, and me and him had a conversation recently, but it's like, essentially look at your life as a closet, and sometime, or at the moment, your closet is full, and until you take out some of those clothes, you can't get new clothes. You can't put new clothes in the closet. So you can't even receive the new blessings that are coming your way if you don't get rid of some of the things that no longer serve you. And some of those jobs will no longer serve you. Some of those opportunities, some of those friends no longer serve you.
That is that's really clear the way you said that.
Yeah.
And
Thank you. I tried.
Yeah, no, really. to add to that too is, I mean, you're saying no longer serve you, and another way to think about it too is you've matured to a certain level. The friends that you're around, they're still your friends. It's just you just need to have other people with these experiences that you need to acquire. When
I was working live action, the friends were throwing out numbers of like what movies they made, like budgets. And I was like, why are you doing this? And I was like, oh, it's like fucking Dragon Ball.
It's
You
just
know, like when they read
Dragon
that,
Ball Z.
10,000 points, whatever. And it made sense because this is a business, right? If you work on a $100 million film, that's $100 million talent that you're affording that is reliable.
Yeah.
To deliver on that and get that money back.
Yep.
And he's like, so if you want to work in these, at the first movie I worked on was like 10, and the next one was like 20 million. He's like, that's your second feature. He's like, that's a big budget for you. So then what happens is you send a meeting, a talent circle in that group, right? And then someone will see you and then like, hey, I'm gonna move up to this next level. I wanna bring you along. Then you start meeting the next group of people. And you work hard, and then that happens again. You start climbing up, and you start meeting different groups of people. And you start seeing how they think, and it's like, oh, this is why you're at the top.
See, and life is like an RPG, like I said.
Yeah, leveling up.
And I feel like there's some blessings in your life that you kind of have to choose to go back and be in pain again in order to access them. And it's painful, you know, it's really hard. And like everybody up here is saying, it's like you sometimes have to turn down the thing that you thought you always wanted, you know, and that's always how it is.
Yeah.
Damn it. I'm like,
I've seen this happen with him so many times.
for me, even recently, I can't go into details because I'm scared, but
I'm pretty sure they have a sniper looking at you somewhere.
but yeah, I had like the job of all jobs. I can't, and in art and animation, I couldn't have imagined a better place to be with better people, with better directors and industries and places. And I was just like, I'm here. This is where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And Mike was still, when I talked to him, he's like, yes, are you happy? I'm like, no. Because even then I was trying to do the things I wanted to do, but I realized, you know, that although you think you have all this ability and power because you're the height of your whatever you're trying to do, you may not, your voice and your power may not be what you think it is. And like Anthony's talking about executives, that's a place of power. Producers, places like those are the people who make really big decisions on what things are going to be. And no matter how great you are as an artist, it takes one executive to come in and say, you know what, I don't think it should be this, it should be this. And they walk out the room and you're there for 3 months cleaning up the mess. Yeah. And so you can kill yourself on somebody else's project and get paid a salary, or you could take a step back and kill yourself on your own project, on your own dream, your own thing, and believe in yourself a little bit more because somebody out there is doing it, and it might as well be you, you know? And I think everybody in here has a story to tell, and it just takes that little bit of like uncomfortable, you know, that uncomfortable position that you have to be. It's almost like therapy. You have to step back into some traumatic things and start to bring them out and put them into writing or into art or into whatever you want them to be, but also be protective of those things, you know, and meet people. You know, Mike, even being here, I didn't want to come to this event, you know, to be honest. Like,
he never does.
I'm a hermit, and that's because of pain, you know. Yeah. But Mike is really good about pushing me to be like, and I'm glad I'm here. I've met so many people, and you get jaded because you get screwed in the industry a lot. It's just part of it. But it's important to get back out there and support each other and to meet new people and new people coming in and people who've been here for a while who maybe you're just afraid to talk to, or, you know, like for me, a guy who I met who's kind of helping this next chapter of my career, which I can't wait to talk about it, but I can't talk about it yet. But he was somebody who was an executive and not somebody who necessarily I was expecting to have changed my life. But when I met him, he's just the most amazing human being and heard me out, saw me for who I was, and has been in the industry for a long time. And, you know, you find these people who you don't think are going to have an impact, or you misjudge. You're like, oh, they're an executive. They don't understand. But some of these people have a heart for you. And, you know, so I don't also be jaded by stories you hear from people like us, because sometimes I can sit up here and bitch about, oh, man, this one time this thing screwed me and blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, ooh, okay, stay away from the producers. And it's like, no, don't do that. You know, meet people, give people a chance.
You want to experience it. I think that's what, don't avoid it. Yeah. Because that makes you stronger.
And it's kind of funny, actually, like when you think about it, once again, metaphorically, when you think about it, when you see someone who's really rich, they're not dressed up in elaborate clothing, right? They're usually like kind of downplayed. They might have a dope ass car, but you won't see that shit. You'll see them wearing like the sloppiest clothes, right? And someone who's broke is gonna be like loud with their clothing, the way they dress. Don't look at me. But when it comes to things like that, it's the same thing with some of these people who can come into your life. You have to you have to be open to people coming into your life. Something I see a lot is people just, maybe they'll look at the internet and see someone has this many followers or they have this job, and they're not understanding that, yeah, it's what it looks like online, but that's not real life, right? And sometimes those people might be some of the meanest people. They might also be nice. But if you're not just open and allowing people to come into your life and just kind of being able to assess, and over time, the more you practice being open and the more you start to kind of interact with people, the easier it gets to read them as well. And a lot of us can have pretty good reads on just people in general, and that's kind of what you heard Anthony mention, and that's kind of what you heard Drew mention as well as Andy, is that these random people have just come into their lives, and the fact that they were open right? They didn't prejudge and say like, oh, there's no way I'm giving this person a chance because he can't help me. That's what happens a lot. A lot of people discount other people simply because because of what they think.
Their title.
Or their title. And so you have to just be open and allow people, listen to people. Instead of looking, listen. That's probably the biggest, like the most important thing of this whole talk, really.
And it's not just like, I guess the last thing I'll say is just, it's not just like a business thing, because what we do is we're all artists, and we're bearing our heart and our soul and our past and people who have influenced us and raised us. We're putting that all out there to be, and so we can get hurt, doing this sort of thing. So just know that you're not alone, and that's unfortunately part of the risk that we all take. But keep working through it, because when you work through it, like, there's light at the end of that tunnel, But also know that there's nothing wrong with you. That's just the industry that we're all in. We're pouring our heart and soul into something. It's not packaged salads, Packaged salads. You don't put up my salads and I'm like, whatever, man. Just tell me where you want the couch, lady. That's my quote.
That's
right
my
there.
quote. Thank you.
A lot of
copywritten.
subtleties in it. I was gonna say, with the reading people, I teach my kids poker. So 2 things that's important: poker and golf.
RPGs too.
Yes, because poker helps you read people and conversation with people and try to see what you could make them do or not make them do, and practice on how you react to people heckling you. Sports that has that a lot too.
Yeah.
Know how to control yourself, your emotion. And then when you play golf, it's just called all the billionaires play golf. So I want to be able to say, hey, come play golf with us. And I'm like, I don't know how to play golf. All right, you're over there. And the only reason I thought that is because my manager asks me to play golf, and I don't know how to play golf. And he's having these meetings. You don't know how to play golf. And he's the one that told me that. And I go, I don't know how. And he brought me one time, and I sucked, so he didn't bring me again. But that's kind of like a joke, but real at the same time. Most of them, he makes deals in the golf course.
A lot of the time.
And in poker. You go to high stakes. This is not even. This is just high stakes poker. You'd be with a bunch of investors or whatever, and then you get along with them. You find out. You're not trying to get to know them because they have a lot of money. You find the one that fits with your personality, so you both kind of help each other.
And when you say, like, in relation to all of this too, like, because I know, like, once again, I know you guys, how important it is to do things outside of art that can help also educate your art career, because art itself is really, like, kind of abstract. Like, even to the point of where you look at your work and you're like, I think it's pretty good, and then someone's like, that shit's ass, right? Like, like, you gotta be able to. You struggle to look at this thing because it's not an actual concrete thing. So I know a lot of these guys, he does jujitsu. You do like a million things. Right now he's doing like some frisbee shit. Like, I like do rock climbing and like stuff like that. And like, when I'm able to be bad at something, I now know what that looks like when I do my art. But when I'm good at something, I also know what that looks like for my art. And when I know how to get good at something, I know how to get good at my art. So it's really good to. It's good to be good, but it's good to get good at something else outside, because it kind of informs your mind and kind of rewires your thinking when it comes to art, because art is really abstract, right? I know you guys have seen, and I'm not going to say any names, but like some of the fine art, and it's like, this sold for like $2 million, and you've looked at it and you're like, how the hell did that sell for $2 million?
Yeah, he must be a good businessman.
Exactly. He's good at bullshitting.
Exactly.
It's like a banana on a blue wall and like $3 million. And you're like, how? Right? Well, what is good art? Right? Of course, you have to have your own standard to know what good is. And that's going to be ever changing because you're going to grow. But when it comes to that kind of stuff in general, just getting good outside of art.
Do you think, Mike,
and connecting to people outside of art too?
Yeah, sorry, cutting you off, but I was going to say,
cut me off.
Do you think it's man, I totally forgot what I was going to say. Do you think it's like it's knowing the game that you're playing, right?
Oh, 100%.
If you want to be a concept artist, so you want to do art. Is it concept art? Is it fine art? So knowing the game that you're playing, you have to be a accepting of the rules, I guess. And then, of course, you change the rules once you know it.
Yeah.
But you can't complain if you know you play basketball, you're going to get elbowed. You better be ready to react to that. You're going to do concept art. Be ready for people to say your art, it's not good, and to not take it as I'm a bad person. No, my art needs to improve. You don't get approvals for 2 years. Maybe I need to change my method of thinking, maybe change something else in my life that could help me watch more documentaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to fine art, you have to know it's not just about the rendering, it's about the, right? It's all sorts of things.
Knowing
that
the rules of the game.
You gotta
Yeah.
be self-aware.
Yeah, it's a situational awareness or something, yeah.
And
or-
actually, jumping back, that's good when it comes to meeting people who may not really do what you do. One of the most impactful moments of my life, actually, and it kind of highlighted an issue that I personally have with myself, is I went to Art Center, but prior to that, I was going to a portfolio review. And, you know, I went there with a sketchbook and like some printed out pages. And when I walked to the school, there was like a school fair where all the schools in like the western side of the U.S. came to our center to kind of do these portfolio reviews. And I was showing my stuff to every school, and I kind of treated it how I do at the club. I should not go into detail about that, but basically, I went to the places that I felt I would have the most confidence, and then I waited for the last one that I really wanted to talk to, which is our center. And I was showing my work to all these people, and they were like, "Yeah, your stuff is great, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "All right, yeah, I'm ready." So I walked to our center, I showed my portfolio, and they literally said, "Ew." And I was like, And when I showed my portfolio, I was so fucking mad. I was heated. I was like on fire. I don't think I've ever been so mad, but also offended, because prior to that, I was in front of like my girlfriend, right, which made it even more embarrassing. And, you know, she was like, "Yeah, you know, maybe you'll be able to come back next year, and yeah, just you're not ready." And I'm like, I go in front of my girlfriend with my like tail between my legs, essentially, and I'm like, "Man, she doesn't know me. She doesn't know how good I can be. Like, this isn't even my best work." Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like complaining.
I did it
throwing
in 2 seconds.
Right? Throwing the biggest rant. And at that moment, she literally like, she's super quiet, never says much. And she was like, "Well, you know, maybe you should think about it this way. I know what you can do, but maybe you should get better at showing what you can do instead of just keeping it in your head." And for some reason, I realized I have a bad thing with knowing. I know what I can do, so I don't ever feel the need to show anyone what I can do, right? And immediately, I was just quiet for like 2 hours on the ride home. Quiet.
So what did she mean by that?
It was just brewing.
Is she saying she's better than me? No, it's like, is the wrong stuff in your head?
Is everything just playing in my head, and I was just quiet. And then I got back home. We had 2 days to return in the portfolio for final review. I turned it in. I did 30 new pages, 100 and something drawings within those 2 days, did not sleep. I got a full scholarship to that school because of that quote. And so sometime I recognize I'll be kind of mad at everyone else, not recognizing that I'm actually not tuning up to the game that I'm supposed to be playing, right? And so she's not an artist at all. Like, she does like the most basic job, but it's once again being able to receive what people are telling you. And sometimes it may come from the most unlikely source, but you just have to be in a place to actually receive that. You can't discount anyone just because they're not a millionaire or just because they haven't done what you're trying to do. Sometimes it's the people who've made the mistakes already that you're supposed to be learning from. And getting back to the actual subject of the talk, for myself, I mapped my career off of looking at people who've been where I want to be, but looking at what they've done wrong, not what they've done right. And that's really important. I've always like sat there and looked at people and say like, "Oh, why don't they just sell books? They have this many followers, they have this much personal work. Why don't they sell books? That's crazy." Oh, maybe when I get there, I should sell books. All right. Oh, why doesn't this person open up a business? They have all these connections, blah, blah, blah. Oh, maybe when I do that, I should get there. So it's not just looking at what they are and what they've done right. Just like yourself, it's looking and paying attention to what you've done wrong. That should really take you to that level.
I think those judgments are really important too, because even if you're trying to figure out if you're in that early phase of figuring out what is my style as an artist, who am I as an artist, what's my voice, sometimes your criticisms of movies is where the secret is, where the answer is, where you'd be like, man, I just wish that Disney would go back to doing like those beautiful hand-drawn stuff that they did back in Pinocchio. And it's like, okay, well, you do that. That's clearly what you want to do, so you be the one that champions that for your style,
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, listen when you feel like something bothers you, or you wish, I just wish the studio would do an authentic story about somebody who's actually from India. Okay, you do it. If you're really, really passionate about it, and you feel like you have that point of view, that's yours to take. You should be telling that story, and you should go after it with passion.
What's the quote that you said about the artist and making mistakes, or style and mistakes?
Oh yeah, how style is how you compensate for your mistakes or your weaknesses. That's really kind of what style is. Whatever you feel like you're not. Like for me, I always would joke with Mike, and to the point to where it was really unhealthy. Where I'm like, I'm a terrible character designer. I'm terrible. I can do color and light, but man, I'm a terrible character designer. And then it started to get really unhealthy to where like I really was limiting myself. And one of my last jobs, I discovered that doing sculpture for me felt like more like painting than trying to draw a character, and so I started to just sculpt characters directly, and all of a sudden I found myself designing characters on a project, And I
big
came
project.
at it from a completely different perspective, but it was me compensating for something that just didn't come natural to me.
I mean, I want to add to what Drew said about your voice, because I recently shared an animatic of like a Vietnamese superhero family that I made, and because I haven't seen it before, so I was like, I'm gonna go make the story that I want to see. And people always talk about finding your voice, and I couldn't articulate what that meant until yesterday. This moment happened, where after the screening was on, this woman came up to me, and she's like, that dinner table scene, that showed me representation. But what was most important was that moment when the main character grabbed the jacket, his grandfather's jacket, and smelled it. I knew that family, I know your family based off that. I was like, that's your voice. It's the specificity of experiences in your life and the decision that you put into your stories. So you really need to live life and experience whether it's good or bad. Because for me, I lost my sister when I was in 3rd grade, and that moment always stuck out to me. My mom was smelling my sister's clothes. She's trying to remember her scent. And I remember us and my co-director, like, I want to take that moment out because people aren't going to get it. And she's like, no, leave it there. And if I hadn't left that there, that moment wouldn't have happened last night. And that was probably my biggest takeaway. It was like, oh, that's your voice.
It's beautiful.
Damn. That like,
We were talking about, it was just, on top of all the art and business, like, you have to have a voice. You have to have something to say. Like,
Art
passion
and
isn't
business,
enough.
Yeah.
You have to have something to say.
That's true. And actually, I'm almost wanting to pull her up here so she could say it herself. But you talked about business the other day and what it needs to fill a need, right? You can't just do something just for the sake of doing it. It needs to fill a need. And it's the same thing with your art. It's like if you notice something that you don't really enjoy seeing and you have a criticism about it, then maybe you are the need. You're the one who needs to actually make that thing happen. And it's going to register with someone because we're all just representations of each other anyways. And so I think about it like this. If someone says something sucks, 1 million people thinks it sucks. And if someone says it's good, 1 million people thinks it's good. So if you think that if there's something that you want to see and there's something that you want to do, there's 1 million people who want that too. So be the person who does that thing. We should actually also jump to questions.
Yeah.
Anybody, somebody.
You have time.
What's up?
Yeah, my name is Jake Greens, and I guess my question, sorry, like mask on,
Yeah.
mask off?
It's fine.
Mask off when you're asking questions.
I can project through it.
All right.
My question is, you guys talked a lot about some practical personal investments, like, you know, like obviously I think for the first one for most artists is like, you gotta get the Cintiq or the iPad. That's like a practical investment. You guys talked about going back to school, going back to art school. What's like an unexpected practical personal investment that you made that really helped you that maybe other people wouldn't think about making?
I'll jump on this one. Pilates.
I was about to say something like that too.
That shit saved my back. That shit. Like the reformer one, I'm like the only guy and it's all girls, but my cousin, that's sophisticated workout. And it's like, it's true, like that saved my back. And like, cause I gotta keep on drawing.
Yeah. I got.
The exact kind of answer I was
Good.
Yeah. I need Pilates now.
Me too. No, honestly, it was something similar. Working out, and the reason why is because I think about us as machines, like in the sense of like a car, right? If you have busted tires, you're putting stress on your transmission, right? So if your body's not in shape, if you're not taking care of yourself, that's definitely taking an impact on your mind. And eventually, once your mind is messed up, your spirit's messed up, right? So I try to make sure that all of those things are running at the same time. And so I would say like investing in my body has definitely been really important to keep my mind on point.
And just to add on to that, I recognize when I start mentally dipping, it's because I'm neglecting my health. The moment that happens, I kind of set aside everything, reprioritize my health again, get back on eating healthier again, working out, and then
That's
get
really
that back
true.
up, and then I can start jumping back on. Obviously, there's times when there's like deadlines, you have to push it, but the moment that deadline's in, I'm jumping right back on that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Drew.
Hi. I really needed to know what sparks me is I have a similar story as well. So I think it was Andy who mentioned you went to school, Britain, and then you went back to art school. And I know you guys also went back to art school after your first career. Do you find now in your virtual career that kind of runs your life? Because I went for psychology, but I'm thinking about going to art school again, and I feel really deeply afraid of being controlled financially for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's why I didn't. So remember, I was like in art school, I was like, man, they pay $250,000? Fuck that. And then I found out like you don't need to. Okay, it's different. If you're out of this country, you need a degree to get in because you need the visa, right?
That's one way.
That's one way. But if you're a citizen here, you're born here, you don't need the degree. You
Yeah.
know, just go to trade schools. And this is great advice that my friend told me. Follow the teachers, don't follow the school.
Mm-hmm.
Find the teachers that are the best.
Damn.
And learn from them.
Bars again.
Yeah, there's so many good resources now that weren't there like 6-7 years ago, like online. I know several of us up here have schools specifically for that reason because we got screwed by going to college and being in massive debt. So like, there's so many other ways to go, you know, like if you want to do storyboarding, like talk to this guy over here, you know, he has a school that he's running and there's lots of resources online. There's Schoolism. They do these amazing courses for pretty cheap. It's like, I don't know, $30-40 a month or whatever it is. So take a look at what's out there. Because what I will say is I can say this without even asking. Somebody here can contradict me, but none of us here have ever been asked, where's your degree?
Yeah.
You know, or where did you go to school? It's about your work, you know, how you got your work. It's kind of irrelevant.
And also, oh my bad. I'll say also, some of the ateliers are actually better than the actual schools. The reason why is because some of these schools fill your schedule up with a lot of BS classes. You know, art history is pretty important, but then it'll be like world history. And it's like, maybe I took that already, you know, if you've already gone to school. But when you take an atelier class, one of the best things you can do is kind of map out your learning, right? And that's really important. I think that's something that normal school will try to map out your learning, but you have to know how you learn. So essentially it's literally putting you in a pod and saying you learn the same way everyone else learns, which isn't really fair to you, right? Some people may have come into the game already great at perspective, right? And maybe you didn't. So maybe you need a little bit more of that than someone else. So I think really mapping out your education and doing like atelier type of schools or online courses like Schoolism and stuff like that are best. But also the best part of that is gonna test your gangster. Like you're not gonna have somebody that just kind of handhold you. You're gonna really see how much you want it because it's gonna be left to your own devices, you know? And that's where it's really at. And if you find yourself being able to do that, doing the ateliers, doing the online courses and actually following through, you know that you really want that, like for real, for real. You can't fake that.
Yeah, because the perspective class at Art Center is the same one at the
Literally.
community college.
The same teacher.
Same one in every book you're going to pick up on perspective. So I break it down into 3 things, and I'll just say them real simple. So one is like your fundamentals. Those are going to be the same no matter where you go to school. They should all be the same, you know, how light works, all those things. Like, that's great. Learn how to do those things in the cheapest way you possibly can. Number 2 is motivation. That's where you find friends like this that can push you to work harder and step it up. That's like the second component. The third one is how you think. And this is where you gotta be really careful. You wanna find somebody who you really admire what they do and what comes out of them, not just, oh, I heard they're the greatest teacher. Like, what have they made? What have they produced? And then you want to learn from them how they think. And that'll help you to now take your skills and perspective and think about it maybe differently. So breaking it down in that way can help you to come up with your own strategy that works in your life.
We've literally learned that lesson between the two of us before, where, and it's also kind of another thing is like individual thinking. If a million people tell you something is good, you have to be able to analyze that and say, why do people think this is good? And that's one of the things with courses is if people are telling you need to take this class before that class, question why. I purposely took all of my classes out of order at Art Center, and I ended up not needing to finish. I also couldn't finish, but I didn't need to finish because I took everything in a very specific order that I knew were my weaknesses, but one of the most important qualities of that is being honest with myself.
Yeah. Well, I could also answer that. I actually didn't go to school to any college, but I went to a community
Wait, you
college.
didn't?
I did.
Damn.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I did the exact thing they're saying to plan out, but back then, 22 years ago, there was no online courses like now, right? But it really is your problem solving, how you want to learn, what you play a lot of games and play those character
RPGs.
games where you know okay, I gotta build my dexterity first before I get to. So it's kind of like that. When you play those games, you know how you're gonna plan out your character build, which is you, right? So exactly kind of like what they were saying. I'd go to, it was associates in art, so all professionals were teaching there, and I said I just have to go there. I didn't have money, so I did. I filled my credit card up, just my debt, credit card debt. Which this is not financial advice, but I knew I was gonna file for bankruptcy when I was.
Oh shit! Wait, what?
So,
why did we get so dark?
Yeah, it got really dark. So that was the next step for doing that. But if you know businesses and stuff, bankruptcies are there to help someone or businesses get out of certain things, right? So that's in place for that. So you think about that. So raked up my credit card debt. Got the classes, but then you made friends in the classes. You made friends with the teachers. You start learning from them for free, but not like, oh, this is free for. No, you're learning because they see you want to learn, and then you go out with them going landscape painting, and next thing you know, other students could also be your teachers. That, of course, get along with them. Don't, oh, you're really good, I want to be around you too much, and they're toxic. So no, not those ones. But yeah, so I was working at Earthlink that time. Long time.
Damn, what's that? That sounds
Yeah,
so old.
yeah. It's gone now.
Okay.
In the mailroom, and my whole plan was to, save money, and then I'm gonna get the classes, and then I was saving this is taking all my time, and I was just making $250 a week, and then that's when I started figuring out how can I do this faster. Everything's how can I do this faster, more efficient, So, and then within a year, I was able to get a job. I found out through this school that creature design was what I wanted to do, and I didn't know there's a job, creature design job at all, and I didn't know you could get a job with just sketches. I didn't know that. That's how. One of my stories that I would tell students, like at Art Center now, I would say this story where my sketchbook's what got me the job. And people would say now, oh no, but you have to have rendering, you have to do, maybe you do for other things, but don't discount the sketchbook and your ideas. Because it's your ideas that will get you the job, and longevity. Because while I didn't really render that well, while I got that job for 13 hours to $13 an hour to start. To me, that was amazing already because I was getting paid really less. But as I'm at work, I would just do rendering classes or copy stuff, watch a lot of documentaries on animals because that helps with my creature design. And then I started doing character design and then environment design. But that was all within like a span of 4 years or something. Like, I mean, I guess my point is YouTube. Concept Design Academy, Brainstorm School. Like some of them are really expensive, so there's still YouTube. There's also people's IGs where they tell how they design stuff. Like us, we just do like free stuff sometimes. But it seems so simple and free. Oh, it's free. It's like not important, But some of it, it really is the basics,
Let's get like one or two more questions.
Yeah.
So I have a question about where do you guys feel is the best environment for finding an environment to combine art and business, like art and entrepreneurship, pretty much? Because I'm pretty much on the same problem of line as trying some more independent, like art, and like bring my own IP and such.
I could answer this real quick. The easiest way for me, the cheapest and easiest way, is to do a webcomic. So doing a webcomic, I know everybody does a webcomic. Like it seems easy. It's not easy because you have to find. You don't just do the story. And this is how I do it anyway. When I was planning to do a webcomic, I was designing characters that I could license out and make into toys, and then make this like this pop culture icon, boom, Baby Groot, something like that. How can I make this? And then the web comic will help show people the personality that you want, that people would want this character, because they don't want the toy with nothing attached to it, emotionally. So as I'm building this idea for a web comic, sometimes you have too many ideas, so you just start building all these ideas as web comics, and then next thing you know, a company or your manager, if you meet a manager, would see all these properties, and then they might see, oh, this relates to Dolphin Entertainment. Oh, that sounds like an IP we want. And then you make and then next thing you know, you're doing a deal with them. And then I left Marvel, so it's like that.
You guys were talking about how, like, pretty much need the entrepreneurship, and me that is like needed by collective of people, right? And like I've been like really thinking about just trying to create organization or community where we just help artists become more independent instead of just trying to work on the people who are really cool, more like business people instead of art people. And I want like this idea of just forming an organization where they teach art and business and how to just become independent.
I think there are some places like that. That's how I met some of the other investors, because I would go to workshops, or not. It's not workshops.
That's actually,
yeah.
I think, doing things like hosting certain events and kind of sprinkling it in, even doing, like you kind of said, like a workshop. I think the first time I actually heard any artist talk about business was actually at a workshop, and there was quite the turnout. Because I think a lot of the times artists forget about business, and historically, I'm talking about like at least since like 1400s, artists have been getting screwed over by some business person, right?
Yeah.
Designers in general have been. So like, I think a lot of times it's because artists, for one, don't care about business a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But nowadays, new like generation artists actually are a little bit more business savvy than the older artists. So I think now is probably the time to actually do things like talking about art and business, and like probably inviting people who have already successfully done it as well to be speakers and things of that nature that will bring your first group or two or three, and then eventually you'll be able to do these things on your own without the need of like a big name. But I think familiarity is always like the biggest proponent to like building any kind of successful business when it comes to social interaction.
Mike, I was gonna say, what I used to want to do was save money so I could buy a 4-unit complex and then live in one and have the other, rent. So I have free rent and I could do whatever I want. That's the easiest way. I don't know if it's easier to do it now, but maybe out of state, it's still easy. But yeah, it's hard with the prices. But 4-unit complex, that was the goal. Now it's like just buying houses, renting it out, right? Buy 10, you can do whatever you want after that. But it is a process. But surprisingly, it's actually easy to buy a house once you have a job.
Is it?
Yeah. See, no one knows. No, I thought it was the hardest thing, but then if you had a job for 5 years, you leverage that stability, so that you get a real estate agent that would know what you need, and to make sure that the property will pay for itself while you live in one. Especially if you're single and you have no kids, it's perfect.
We
And
all
then
need to talk to Anthony.
yeah. But it's kind of hard in California. It really is to get a 4-unit complex. So I'm looking outside of California to look for stuff like that.
When do you want? Should we wrap it?
Oh no, she had a question and he had a question back
I
here.
don't know if there's another panel coming up afterwards
Oh.
too.
Yeah, they both had their hand up for a while,
Okay.
so we'll just
Yeah.
let them.
Okay, we'll wrap it up. Those two. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just keep it marked. So I just have a question in terms of like, I know I never wanted to go to the film game. So after I'm a designer, I'm trying to branch out more into digital development. And I kind of noticed how, there, like you're saying, there is a worry that in the 20s or so forth, as you keep going, that in the 30 ride of energy, like I should step at that time. And something else, what I should step.
By the way, I'm 48.
He looks great.
I'm like, sometimes energy, I mean, that's the fear you have to put to yourself, so you keep on going. But when you keep on going at 48, I have like so many things I want to do still. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you. Just so.
Yeah, it's just that, like, for example, I was a designer and I spend like every day sketching. Actually, I'll make it like a decent job at, like, for example, Fisher Price for a while. And now, but in the last year, I have stepped into some people who are a bit pessimistic and kept saying stuff like, "Why are you working so hard? Like, you should just enjoy yourself." They're kind of the most inspired type people, or length. It's kind of how much you take in or what you take out. So I just kind of realized, like, when you're, how do you learn to how to stay on your own path or own journey, like, to for it take the blame, but some people may take away some of your energy. And
Oh yeah.
how do you learn
Oh man,
to keep working and not
that's true.
I definitely feel that shit. I personally like to win in silence. I feel like a lot of times when you start to announce what you're gonna do, people are really quick to tear it down based on what they haven't done. And once again, like after you do that a while, and it's funny that Andy said it too, but after you do that for a while, that confidence builds up from the inside, right? And how you build your confidence is the way you build your confidence is also how it tears down. So if you've built your own confidence, no one else can tear it down. But if your confidence is built by someone else, then they can tear it down. I do not tell people what I'm gonna do unless I know that it's like someone who is very supportive and also close. And generally, if I see that they're taking me away from like, why are you working so hard? Those type of people, they'll never hear what I'm gonna do. But if there's someone who will make me kind of question my approach, I will tell them, right? So like I tell Drew like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing. He won't say like, why the fuck are you doing that? He'll say, how, right? And the more you can think about those type of things, that's the kind of environment you want to cultivate in general. So like all of us, there's never been like a tear down on like, why are you doing something? It's more of like a, how are you doing it? Or making you questioning your efficiency, right? Simplifying your approach to that said thing.
Why are
And-
you working so hard?
Exactly. Why?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I'm addicted to my art. So,
And I think that's good. That's a good exercise that I learned a long time ago that I think everybody in here could just do this homework at some point. Like, I'm going to give you homework. So everybody do this at some point today. Just do it. Do the 5 whys. The 5 whys is just pick anything, that you're struggling to understand what you should do next or whatever, and start asking yourself why. So for me, it could be like, all right, I want to, make the next big animated feature film. Why? Okay, I want to do it because I feel like I have something to say. It's something that's not in the industry that needs to be out there. Why? Because I feel that I'm the only person who can tell this story. Why? And every time you ask why, you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper until you're somewhere where it's like, whoa, I'm in some really dense soil here that could propel me pretty far.
great exercise. That is, I think in the end is trying to spend time with my family. That's always, why do you want to be a billionaire? So I don't have to worry about money. Why do you want to not worry about money? Because so I can spend time with my kids. Well, your kids are already old. You don't want to spend time with them anymore. Oh, that's right. All right.
And also, I'll say, when it comes to age, I don't. Anything I say is never literal, which is probably like the African side of me. Hey, but when it comes to age, it's not necessarily your age physically, it's also like your art age, right? So like sometimes you can be like 50, but having only drawn for like 20 years, or sorry, 10 years or 5 years, right? But if you've been doing it for a long time, that's a different type of age. It's like wear and tear on the same way you would wear and tear on your body, you can wear and tear on your mind, you know?
Just looking at you, you're not too old, so
No.
don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's just in little things you kind of have, like, trying to keep up, because everyone here is so talented. And
Yeah, it could be overwhelming for sure. Never too late. Just, I mean, there's just Google online all the people that started, even Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, all those people who they bloomed like into their later in life than what you'd expect into their 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
I mean, it can
And that's
happen
actually the common-
at any age. I have my father-in-law who had Parkinson's disease, rest in peace. When he had Parkinson's disease, he was a really great guitarist, finished carpenter, couldn't use his hands the same way. We got him a drum set, and in like his 60s, he became an amazing drummer, and he had Parkinson's, but he found a really interesting, cool way of getting to play drums and managing that disease in that way. And so you never know, like it's about motivation and willpower.
Yeah.
You're alive, you're breathing, you can do it.
Yeah.
Wasn't there saying the best never rest or something like that for sports? So that's why you work so hard, because you just want to be the best in what you do. So,
And last question.
Hi. My question is first, like, do you have any advice where, just because as artists, with artists, we kind of,
Okay.
We're finishing up right now.
Yeah. 2
Okay.
minutes.
we end up like becoming generalists essentially because of all the things we end up liking to do and stuff. Like I started a painter and then I went into design and then it kind of bled into like medical stuff and it's kind of coming back to more like art stuff, but it's kind of left me with like not really a specialization, which I guess looks better when you're applying your jobs.
It's hard. That's an interesting.
Sometimes, like, it can look better. Right?
Sometimes it depends on the job. There's certain industries that really applaud, in certain sizes of companies specifically, that applaud generalists, and then there's other companies, especially large companies, that want specialized because they just want to be able to know where to plug you.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you like doing all the stuff you're doing that you feel? Okay.
I have, like, I guess my difficulty is like it's just like, do you have any advice for like what would help you guys in the
I feel
Yeah.
like maybe it's finding the right company that needs you. You know.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
one.
just finding the right company. Like I like doing dinosaurs. Go to a company that needs dinosaur people.
I think that's one. I think the other thing is sometime noticing what you enjoy doing in your off time, as in when no one is telling you what to do,
Oh, yeah.
and you just naturally do that. That's probably your specialty. And usually that coincides when someone is looking at your work, they just feel this feeling. It feels genuine. It feels like you. That's probably the thing. I used to do environment specifically, and he's the other way around, but I used to do environment specifically, and I would do character design in my off time, specifically in a sketchbook, and I could do that for hours. And people would comment, and I never took their word because I'm a fool, but like I was like, oh, they're like, oh man, your character's so cool, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks. And they're like, oh, the fashion is so cool. And I'm like, fashion? Huh?
here.
But eventually people start to notice that was my specialty, right? And I took that, and then that was my career. So.
Thank you guys. Sorry.
Thank you guys.
We appreciate you
Thank for being
staying
here.
around.